In this second installment of my 5-part series on 10 entrepreneur high leverage points, I'm reviewing 2 more operations high leverage points. The production and service drum that sets the beat for the products and services that run through your operations, and product and service ranking. Managing your high leverage points is essential to achieving your company's maximum profitability, cash flow, return on equity, and company value. The purpose of these videos is to show you how to monitor or take the pulse of your high leverage points to see which ones are going well and which ones need your attention. My name is Brant Friesen. I live in Vancouver, Canada, where I've been a chartered accountant for more than 45 years. My specialty has always been working with companies to build their best possible future. I work with teams to show them how to identify the high leverage points in the systems that make up their operating, investing, and finance activities. And working together, we design and implement high leverage policies to take advantage of the high leverage points and maximize profits, cash flow, return on equity, and company value. Let's look at the third entrepreneur high leverage point, the drum that sets the beat of the products and services that flow through your manufacturing or service operation. The drum beat can be less than the capacity of your operation for delivering your products or services. For example, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, or TMX, that runs 1,180 kilometers from Edmonton, Alberta to Burnaby, BC, with a branch into Washington State, has the capacity to deliver 890,000 barrels of oil a day. Currently, there is a market constraint that is limiting the demand for oil delivery through the TMX to less than 890,000 barrels per day. Consequently, the drum beat for the TMX is less than 890,000 barrels per day. The limited market demand is a constraint that is external to the TMX operations. Other external constraints that can prevent a company from delivering its full capacity of products and services include limited access to production materials or limited availability of subcontractors. In the TMX example, this could be a disruption of the supply of oil or a disruption in the availability of oil tankers to transport all the oil that is running through the pipeline. When there are no external constraints, the focus for setting the drum beat will be on the company's internal capacity constraint resources, or CCRs. To illustrate how internal capacity constraining resources can be managed to set up an optimal drum beat, let's look at a high-performance craft bagel bakery. Our craft bagel bakery bakes and sells on-site 15,000 bagels per day. There are customers for all the bagels they can produce, and they can purchase all the ingredients they need to produce their bagels. So, they have no external market or material constraints. Let's look at the bagel production workflow to see where the capacity constraint resources are and how they set the drum beat in the bagel production operation. The workflow is mixing bagel dough in a machine mixing bowl, dividing and hand rolling the dough into bagel shapes, placing the bagels on baking sheets, placing the loaded sheets on racks, covering the loaded racks with a vinyl jacket so the bagels can proof for a half hour so they don't get too big, taking the vinyl jacket off the racks of bagels and rolling the racks into a fridge for open air fermenting for 24 hours. Then the bagels are poured into boiling water, where the kettle person decides when they're boiled just right. Right after boiling, seasoning is hand sprinkled on both sides of the bagels. Right after seasoning, the bagels are baked for 20 minutes in a rotary oven. They are flipped over halfway through the bake cycle. The rotary oven bakes 400 bagels at a time. With no time allowed for loading and unloading, the maximum capacity per hour then is 1,200 bagels. To allow for loading and unloading, let's round down to 1,000 bagels per hour. We see that every bagel produced goes through every step in the bagel prep and baking process. So this means that to take full advantage of the oven's baking capacity, every step in the process needs to have the capacity to at least process 1,000 bagels per hour. We also see that the rotary oven, which is the last resource in the workflow, is the most involved and expensive resource. It's easier to expand the capacity of the resources ahead of the rotary oven to keep them from limiting the volume of the bagels that can be baked. As a matter of fact, it's a good strategy to increase the capacity of the upstream resources beyond 1,000 bagels per hour to compensate for disruptions that will occur in the workflow before the bagels arrive at the rotary oven. The rotary oven will then be the only capacity constraining resource, and it can be confidently scheduled with a drum beat of 1,000 bagels per hour. Managing both external and internal constraints and setting a drum beat for your workflows are essential for maximizing the performance of your operating activities. I'll get into more details on this topic in upcoming videos. The concepts that I presented here have their origin in the field of system dynamics. The textbooks that I refer to on the subject are Business Dynamics from Irwin McGraw-Hill and Synchronous Management from Spectrum Publishing. Now for our fourth operating activity high leverage point, product and service performance ranking. If you sell more than one product or service, do you know which one has the most positive effect on your operation? Is it the product or service with the highest selling price, or the highest contribution margin, or the highest gross profit? You'll be surprised at the answer to this question. Let's look at the formula for ranking your products and services. The formula is simple. You take the time that a product or service spends on the drum, and you divide that time into the contribution margin for that product. Products with the highest contribution margin per hour on the drum rank highest on your database of products. Contribution margin is the selling price of a product or service minus its totally variable costs. What are totally variable costs? Totally variable costs are only incurred when product or services are sold. Commissions, materials, or subcontractor costs that are only incurred to deliver on a sale are examples of totally variable costs. Another way to look at it is, if the product or service was not sold, the commissions, materials, and subcontractor costs would not be incurred. Let's go back to our Kraft Bagel Bakery scenario. In our Kraft Bagel Bakery scenario, the materials in the bagel mix are the only totally variable costs. Now, there might be an argument here that our Kraft Bagel Bakery makes bagels to stock and not to order. So the material costs are not totally variable because there is no guarantee that all the bagels that are made in a given day will be sold. Our assumption, though, is that the materials are totally variable because the decision to make 1 hour's worth of bagels or 15 hours worth of bagels in a particular day is based on a history of there always being customers for all the bagels that are made each day. The contribution margin for a bagel is the selling price for the bagel minus the cost of the ingredients. Unique ingredients can be added to the bagel mix and various seasonings are sprinkled on the bagels before baking. So customers have options beyond plain bagels. There's an additional material cost for these additions to the bagel mix. However, there's no extra labor required to add the unique ingredients to the bagel mix, and additions to the bagel mix and seasonings make no difference in the bake time in the rotary oven. So every bagel type can be baked at a rate of 1,000 bagels per hour. This database of products shows the selling price, material cost, and contribution margin for each hour in the rotary oven for the deluxe, premium, and regular bagels. The database of products shows us that the selling price ranking doesn't equate to the contribution margin per hour of time in the rotary oven. The Kraft Bagel Bakery will make its highest revenue selling deluxe bagels, but they'll make the most contribution margin and net income selling premium bagels. So why don't they just sell premium bagels? The quick answer is that customers want variety. Variety is the spice of life, as the saying goes. Now, they could raise the price of the deluxe bagel to $5.75 and the plain bagel to $4.75 to generate a $3.75 contribution margin, just like the premium bagel, but the concern is the level of tolerance the customers have for price increases. Now let's look at a make-to-order example where the use of resources fluctuates depending on the different customer requirements. Let's look at Blue Pony VFX, a boutique visual effects studio. Blue Pony is a long-form, live-action visual effects studio. Blue Pony does post-production work for theatrical motion pictures, television shows, streaming shows, both movies and episodic productions. Blue Pony serves all the major production houses including Disney, Warner Bros. Discovery, Paramount CBS, NBC Universal, Amazon MGM, Apple Plus, Sony Pictures, and Netflix. Blue Pony performs post-production VFX work on the individual shots that make up a motion picture. Blue Pony's VFX resource pools include 13 generalists, 3 digital matte painters, 2 FX special effects artists, 1 roto paint artist, 1 layout artist, and 21 compositors, and 8 production coordinators. After allowing for weekends, statutory holidays, and vacation days, there are 230 annual work days per crew member. Pricing is negotiated on a shot-by-shot basis. The more complex the shot, the higher the price. The time in each resource pool varies from one shot to the next based on the work specifications that can vary from one shot to the next. The contribution margin for a show is the shot revenue less the amount paid to vendors for shot work that isn't performed by the Blue Pony crew. Gross profit for a show is the contribution margin less the wage cost of the crew complement that worked on the show. Shows are ranked based on the contribution margin that they would generate if they were the only show that the full crew complement had to work on for a year. Here's the performance ranking for 6 shows that Blue Pony worked on. City Lights, $22.5 million, Camelot, $19.4 million, Chicago, $19.3 million, Chinatown, $18.9 million, Cincinnati Kid, $15.2 million, Car Wash, $18.4 million. What does our database of products show us? Let's check the box scores for each show's high points. We see that of the 6 shows that ran through the Blue Pony VFX studio, City Lights is the show that would generate the most contribution margin if the Blue Pony crew complement only worked on City Lights over a year. What is very interesting here is that City Lights does not lead in show revenue, per shot revenue, gross profit percentage, or show contribution margin. Camelot, on the other hand, leads in 2 categories, show revenue and show contribution margin, and it comes in second in ranking to City Lights. Chicago leads in per shot revenue, but it ranks 3rd in annualized contribution margin. Chinatown has the highest gross profit percentage, but it ranks 4th in annualized contribution margin. For every show except Car Wash, the drum is the compositors. The key point here is that the other measures are important, but they're not the high leverage point measure. The high leverage point measure is show contribution margin divided by the time on the drum or capacity constraining resource. Let's consider the situation where the drum resource pool fluctuates. Car Wash ran through Blue Pony VFX with more generalist days than compositor days. For Car Wash, the drum was the generalist. As you can see from Blue Pony's pool of resources, compositing has the largest crew complement with 21 compositors. Blue Pony is set up for shot work that requires more compositing than any other resource pool task. They can take generalist-oriented shows from time to time, but they need to keep in mind that shows that require a disproportionate amount of generalist time may prevent work from flowing to the compositors. We see here that if the work breakdown of the shows changes to require more generalist work than compositing work, Blue Pony may need to change the capacity profile of its resource pools to have a higher crew complement of generalists than compositors. This concludes our review of the 3rd and 4th universal high leverage points, production and service drum, and product and service ranking. Click on this link to watch the 3rd installment in this 5-part series of 10 entrepreneur high leverage points, where I cover 2 more operations activity high leverage points, backlogs and front logs.